I had everything once. A loving family in Portland who would move mountains for me, a promising career in software engineering, and Jessica, the girlfriend, I thought was my future wife. It is amazing how quickly your perfect life can shatter with a few fabricated words. One day you are planning your future, and the next the people who raised you refuse to even look you in the eye. All because of screenshots they never questioned. Texts I never sent. Years of silence followed until the truth finally surfaced. Before I share my story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, my family was the kind everyone envies. My parents, Thomas and Marie, built their lives around their children. My older brother, Derek, 30 at the time of this story. Always the achiever and golden child. My younger sister, Amanda, 25 and fiercely protective of our family unit. And me, Bruce, 27 and comfortably settled between them in age and temperament. Our Sunday dinners were sacred. For 15 years, regardless of weather, school pressures, or work commitments, we gathered at my parents' craftsman house in the suburbs. The tradition started when I was 12 after my grandfather passed away. My mother decided then that family connections required intentional maintenance. The dining room would fill with the scent of her signature pot roast or homemade lasagna, while my father poured wine for the adults and sparkling cider for whoever wanted it. These gatherings anchored us through college transitions, career starts, and relationship dramas. My career took off faster than expected. After graduating with a computer science degree, I landed at Tech Fusion, a startup developing innovative automation software. Within 3 years, I moved from junior developer to project lead, managing a team of 5. My family celebrated each promotion like it was an Olympic medal win. I met Jessica Taylor at my college friend Adam's 4th of July barbecue. She stood out immediately, confident in a sundress holding court, with a group hanging on her every word. When she laughed, her entire face transformed. Her brown hair caught the sunlight, and I remember thinking she looked like she belonged in a shampoo commercial. Adam introduced us, mentioning she worked in marketing for a competing tech company. Not direct competition, but adjacent enough to be interesting. "So you are the code wizard Adam keeps talking about," she said, her smile warm and inviting. "He says your startup is the one to watch." Our first date happened 3 days later. Dinner at a small Italian place downtown where the owner knew my name. Jessica seemed genuinely interested in my work, asking smart questions about software development that showed she had done her research. She told me about growing up in Chicago, moving to Portland for college, and falling in love with the Pacific Northwest. By dessert, I felt a connection I had not experienced with previous girlfriends. The first 6 months were everything a new relationship should be. Jessica fit seamlessly into my life. She charmed my family at her first Sunday dinner, bringing my mother hand-selected wine and asking for cooking tips. My father appreciated her business acumen, while Derek and Amanda welcomed her enthusiastically. Jessica remembered details about their lives, texting Amanda about her nursing exams and asking Derek about his marathon training. We took a vacation to Florida together, spent holidays with each other's friends, and started casually discussing moving in together. I began imagining proposing within the year. The red flags emerged so subtly, I nearly missed them. Jessica questioned a project that paired me with Allison, a talented front-end developer. "You two seem to have a lot of late nights at the office," she commented, her tone casual but eyes watchful. When I received texts, Jessica would glance over, asking who they were from with forced nonchalance. If I mentioned grabbing lunch with coworkers, she wanted to know exactly who would be there. I dismissed these moments as insecurity that would fade with time. Everyone has baggage, I reasoned. Jessica had mentioned an ex-boyfriend who cheated, and I figured her vigilance was residual hurt that would heal with consistent trustworthiness. Around the 6-month mark, our arguments increased in frequency and intensity. My promotion to development team lead came with longer hours during product launches. Jessica accused me of prioritizing work over our relationship, questioning if I really valued her. "If this is how it is now, what happens when you get an even bigger promotion?" she demanded during one particularly heated exchange. "Will I ever come first?" Her tactics grew increasingly manipulative. If I mentioned Sunday dinner, Jessica would sigh dramatically. "Again, we just saw them last week. Do you ever want us to build our own traditions?" When I explained the importance of family time, she would relent but ensure I felt guilty for choosing them. One Sunday, Jessica created a scene over seating arrangements, insisting Amanda had deliberately placed her at the far end of the table. The perceived slight dominated the car ride home, with Jessica tearfully suggesting my family did not accept her. I knew this was false. My mother had already started, including Jessica in her cookbook annotations indicating long-term planning. More concerning were the comments Jessica made to my family when I was not present. My mother mentioned in passing Jessica said you can be difficult to deal with when you are stressed about work. Is everything okay, sweetie? The seed of doubt had been planted, positioning me as the problematic partner. When I confronted Jessica about undermining me to my family, she turned the accusation back on me. I was just confiding in your mom, she said, eyes widening in practiced innocence. Are you saying I cannot have a relationship with her independent of you? That seems controlling, Bruce. After several similar incidents, I began reconsidering our relationship. The connection that once felt so promising now seemed fraught with manipulation. I decided to end things after my brother's engagement party that weekend. A public event did not seem the right setting for a breakup, and I did not want to distract from Derek's moment. I had no idea Jessica had already set her plan in motion. The night before Derek's engagement party changed everything. I remember it with painful clarity, the kind of memory that burns itself into your consciousness. Jessica and I were getting ready at my apartment. I showered first, leaving my phone charging in the living room. I spent extra time trimming my beard and styling my hair, wanting to look good in what would be numerous family photos. Later, I would learn that those 20 minutes gave Jessica all the time she needed. While I stood under the hot water, oblivious, Jessica accessed my unlocked phone. She opened my messaging app and created an entirely fabricated conversation with my coworker, Allison. She crafted both sides of the exchange, making it appear that Allison and I were having an affair. The messages suggested a months-long relationship with plans to meet at a hotel the following weekend. The texts included explicit content and dismissive comments about Jessica. After taking screenshots of this manufactured evidence, Jessica deleted the conversation from my phone, leaving no trace of her deception. When I emerged from the bathroom, she was sitting innocently on the couch, scrolling through her own phone. "You look handsome," she said, standing to straighten my collar. "Your family will be so proud to show you off today." We drove to the vineyard where Derek's engagement party was being held, Jessica unusually quiet beside me. I attributed her mood to the tension in our relationship, not suspecting the calculated betrayal in progress. At the party, Jessica's behavior shifted noticeably. She became overly affectionate in front of my family, holding my hand and leaning into my side while talking to relatives. She laughed too loudly at my father's jokes and complimented my mother excessively on her outfit choice. Between these performances, she disappeared, frequently claiming work emails needed immediate attention. I now understand she was executing the next phase of her plan. Jessica approached my sister Amanda, first knowing her protective nature would serve the scheme perfectly. Finding Amanda alone near the dessert table, Jessica initiated the conversation with carefully practiced vulnerability. "Amanda, I need to show you something, but I am not sure what to do," she began, her voice trembling. "I found these messages on Bruce's phone, and I am devastated. I do not want to ruin the party, but I cannot pretend everything is fine anymore." She showed Amanda the screenshots, watching as my sister's expression transformed from confusion to anger. Amanda, believing she was defending a wronged woman, brought Jessica to our parents. The fabricated evidence was presented again, this time with Jessica playing the reluctant messenger. "I did not want to tell you this way," she told them, "but I thought you should know who Bruce really is." By the time they approached me, the entire family had aligned against me. I was enjoying a conversation with Derek's future in-laws when my father's hand gripped my shoulder firmly. His expression was stone cold, a look I had never seen directed at me. "We need to talk. Now." His voice left no room for questions. I followed my family to a private room off the main event space, confusion mounting with each step. Inside, my mother stood with her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Amanda glared with open hostility. Derek looked disappointed but less certain. Jessica stood slightly apart, eyes red-rimmed from manufactured tears. "What is going on?" I asked, genuinely baffled by the hostile reception. My father pushed his phone toward me, displaying the screenshots Jessica had shared. "Care to explain these?" I stared at messages I had never seen before, supposedly between myself and Allison. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. "These are not real," I said, finally. "I never wrote these. I have never had any relationship with Allison beyond professional collaboration." "So someone hacked your phone just to create fake texts about you cheating?" Derek asked, skepticism heavy in his voice. No, someone created these from scratch. This conversation never happened. As I spoke, I realized how implausible my defense sounded, even to my own ears. Jessica stepped forward, tears flowing freely now. I did not want to believe it either. I kept hoping there was an explanation. That is why I waited to say anything. But when I saw the messages about the hotel next weekend, her voice broke convincingly. "This is insane," I insisted, desperation rising. "You have to believe me. I would never cheat on anyone, let alone discuss it so blatantly in text messages. Someone is setting me up." My mother spoke, then her voice tight with disappointment. "Who would do such a thing, Bruce? And why Jessica has been nothing but loving toward you and this family. We raised you with values," my father added. "The man in these messages is not the son we thought we knew." Derek's fiancée Lauren appeared at the door, concerned by our extended absence. Sensing the tension, she suggested gently, "Perhaps Bruce should leave. This is supposed to be a celebration." My family agreed without hesitation. My mother could not look at me. My father said they needed time to process their disappointment before speaking again. Amanda openly sided with Jessica, putting an arm around her shoulders and promising support. I left the vineyard alone, text messages to my family going unanswered or receiving cold, brief responses. When I returned to my apartment, I found Jessica had already collected most of her belongings. She had been planning this exit strategy, calculating each move like a chess master, thinking 5 steps ahead. The following days brought complete isolation. I called each family member repeatedly, leaving voicemails explaining my innocence. I sent emails analyzing why the texts were obviously fake, pointing out inconsistencies in writing style and timeline. Nothing penetrated their certainty. At work, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Jessica had apparently shared her concerns with mutual acquaintances in the tech community. Rumors spread. When I approached Allison to clear things up, she was visibly uncomfortable, uncertain what to believe. HR called me in for a meeting about inappropriate workplace conduct despite having no actual complaints or evidence. Allison requested a transfer to a different department. Colleagues maintained professional interactions, but kept personal distance. My reputation, previously sterling, now carried an asterisk of doubt. Meanwhile, Jessica continued her campaign of destruction. She shared additional evidence with my family, fabricated emails, and manipulated photos that made innocent situations appear compromising. Each new piece solidified their belief in my betrayal and Jessica's victimhood. The emotional toll became overwhelming. I experienced anxiety attacks for the first time in my life, waking with my heart pounding and unable to catch my breath. Depression settled over me like a heavy fog, making even simple tasks require enormous effort. I considered relocating to another city, starting fresh, where the weight of false accusations did not follow my every step. Christmas passed with no contact from my family, the first holiday I ever spent alone. I sent gifts that received no acknowledgement. When January brought my sister's save-the-date wedding announcement, my name was conspicuously absent from the invitation. I learned through a mutual friend that I had been excluded from the wedding party and guest list entirely. This final rejection broke something fundamental in me. The people who had promised unconditional love had abandoned me without allowing for the possibility of innocence. The pain transformed into numbness, perhaps the only way my mind could continue functioning. 8 months into my exile, fate intervened in an ordinary coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday morning. I stood waiting for my order when someone touched my elbow. Turning, I found myself face to face with Maya, Jessica's former roommate from her first year in Portland. "Bruce, I thought that was you," she said, her expression a mixture of surprise and concern. "Do you have a minute to talk?" We took a table in the corner, steam rising from our mugs as Maya studied me with unusual intensity. "You look different," she observed. "Thinner. Tired." I gave a humorless laugh. "Being disowned will do that to you." Maya set down her cup with deliberate care. "That is actually why I wanted to talk. I have been trying to find a way to reach out for months." What followed was the first validation I had received since the nightmare began. Maya revealed Jessica had a pattern of manipulation in previous relationships. Before me, she had dated a man named David for nearly a year, ending things by convincing his friends he had gambling debts and had borrowed money from her without repaying it. She creates elaborate scenarios where she is the victim, Maya explained. I moved out because I could not stand watching her manipulate people. Then came the revelation that changed everything. About 4 months ago, Jessica got drunk at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was bragging about teaching you a lesson after suspecting you wanted to end things. She specifically mentioned creating fake texts. My hands trembled as I processed her words. You heard her admit this. Maya nodded, pulling out her phone. She texted me afterward, still drunk, going on about how she had fixed things so you would never recover socially. I kept the messages because what she described doing to you felt criminal. She showed me the texts, Jessica describing in detail how she had manufactured evidence and turned my family against me. There were even messages to her friend Zach, discussing how to make the screenshots look authentic. A storm of emotions crashed through me. Validation, rage, relief, determination. Someone finally knew the truth. I was not crazy. She did this because she thought I was going to break up with her. The cruelty seemed disproportionate, even knowing what I now knew about Jessica. Jessica cannot handle rejection, Maya explained. In her mind, she was striking first. And Bruce, she is still in contact with your family. She attends their events, playing the wounded party who still cares about them despite everything. This final detail ignited a focused anger unlike anything I had felt before. Not only had Jessica stolen my family, but she was also continuing to manipulate them in my absence. I will testify to all of this, if you want to take legal action, Maya offered. Or if you just want to clear your name with your family. I should have come forward sooner, but Jessica can be vindictive. I was afraid. We discussed options. I could confront Jessica directly, but engaging with her toxicity seemed unwise. My priority was reclaiming my relationship with my family, not revenge. Will you speak to my sister if I can arrange it? I asked. Maya agreed immediately. I have all the evidence saved, and I can connect you with David and another ex who had similar experiences. Armed with truth for the first time in nearly a year, I crafted a careful approach. My sister Amanda, though quick to judge, was also the most reasonable family member. I sent a simple text: I have irrefutable evidence of what actually happened. One meeting, 30 minutes of your time. After that, if you still believe Jessica, I will never contact you again. 3 days passed before her response. Wednesday. Riverfront Coffee, 4:00 p.m. The meeting was tense from the start. Amanda sat rigid, defensive, clearly expecting another denial session. I placed Maya's phone on the table between us. Before you say anything, I need you to read these, I said quietly. Amanda scrolled through the messages, her expression shifting from skepticism to confusion to dawning horror. When she finished, she looked up with tears forming. There is more, I continued. Maya is willing to tell you everything. So is David, another ex-boyfriend Jessica manipulated. And I have technicians who can verify the texts Jessica showed you were created recently, not over the period she claimed. My sister's composure cracked. Why would she do this? Because I was going to break up with her after Derek's engagement party. She suspected and struck first. Amanda confessed the family had noticed inconsistencies in Jessica's behavior after cutting me off. She continued attending family functions, inserting herself into events while playing the heartbroken victim. Recently, her stories had become increasingly elaborate and contradictory, raising quiet doubts. Mom found her looking through her jewelry box last month, Amanda admitted. When questioned, Jessica said you had told her she could have Grandma's earrings. Mom knew that was impossible. Those earrings are meant for my wedding day. We discussed it, but it was easier to dismiss one inconsistency than question everything I finished for her. Amanda nodded, shame evident in her posture. Will you meet with everyone? Let us make this right. The prospect of facing my entire family walking up to the home that had barred me from entry sent anxiety coursing through me. But I agreed. 2 evenings later, I stood on my parents' porch, heart hammering against my ribs. Amanda opened the door, giving my hand a supportive squeeze before leading me inside. My parents waited in the living room, their faces a complex mixture of hope, doubt, and regret. My father had aged, visibly new lines etched around his eyes. My mother's hands twisted a tissue into shreds. Derek stood by the fireplace, his expression guarded but receptive. Maya arrived minutes later, bringing the promised evidence. For 2 hours, we presented the truth. Jessica's history of manipulation, her drunken confessions, technical analysis of the fabricated messages, testimony from another ex-boyfriend via video call. As understanding solidified, my mother began crying openly. My father struggled to maintain his composure, his jaw working silently. Derek paced the room, anger radiating from his movements. The final confirmation came unexpectedly when Jessica called my mother's phone during our meeting. I suggested answering on speaker, giving me the chance to confront her directly. "Jessica," I said when the call connected, "I am sitting with my family right now. We have been discussing the text messages you created to frame me for cheating." Her reaction told the truth better than any evidence could. Initial stammering denial gave way to defensive anger. When pressed, Jessica shifted to attacking me personally, and in her rage, let slip a damning admission. "You deserved what I did. I saw you were pulling away, and nobody leaves me first." The line went silent for a moment before Jessica attempted to backtrack, but the damage was done. Her final words before hanging up were equally revealing. "You were never worthy of love anyway. None of you were." In the silence that followed, my family stared at the phone in collective shock. The last fragment of doubt had been obliterated by Jessica's own words. The aftermath was complicated. My family's immediate and profuse apologies could not instantly heal the wound of their abandonment. Forgiveness, I discovered, is neither automatic nor simple, especially when trust has been shattered so completely. "We should have believed you," my father said, voice thick with emotion. "There is no excuse." My mother could barely speak through her tears. "My sweet boy, what have we done to you?" Their remorse was genuine, but I needed space to process the enormity of what had happened. I left that night with a promise to stay in touch, but an understanding that reconciliation would take time. The relief of vindication battled with lingering hurt. They should have trusted me, should have questioned Jessica's claims, should have given their son the benefit of doubt. For 3 weeks, I maintained minimal contact, focusing instead on my own healing. I began therapy to address the abandonment trauma and anxiety that had become my constant companions. I reconnected with friends who had maintained faith in my character despite the rumors. Meanwhile, my family embarked on their own campaign of atonement. My father wrote a letter detailing his regret, acknowledging that his quick judgment revealed weaknesses in his character he was now committed to addressing. My mother left care packages at my door. Comfort foods from childhood photos from happier times, handwritten notes of apology. Amanda and Derek reached out in their own ways. My sister used her nursing connections to find therapists specializing in family trauma. My brother invited me for runs along the riverfront, where we could talk without the pressure of sustained eye contact. Gradually, carefully, I allowed myself to engage with their efforts. First came lunch with my father at a neutral restaurant where we spoke honestly about his tendency towards swift judgment and my fear of ever trusting him completely again. "I failed the most basic test of fatherhood," he admitted. "I promised to always be your safe harbor, and instead I cast you adrift. I cannot undo that, but I can spend every day moving forward proving I have learned from it." Similar conversations followed with other family members. My sister's wedding plans were restructured to include me in my original role as groomsman. The most difficult discussion addressed why they had so readily believed the worst about me. "We thought we knew Jessica," my mother explained. "She spent months laying groundwork, mentioning small conflicts, suggesting patterns. By the time she showed us those texts, she had primed us to believe them. But you knew me my entire life." I countered. 27 years versus 18 months with her. "How did her version override everything you knew about my character?" The uncomfortable truth was that families can take for granted the people they assume will always be there. The unconditional love I had counted on came with unspoken conditions after all. 2 years have passed since that reconciliation began. Our relationship today is stronger in some ways, more guarded in others. Sunday dinners resumed, though now hosted at different homes on rotation. A new tradition, replacing the one that had been tainted. I established clear boundaries and expectations. Trust would be rebuilt through consistency and respect, not declarations or grand gestures. My family accepted these terms, recognizing the privilege of second chances. My career recovered slowly. I eventually received a promotion to development team, lead rebuilding my professional reputation through exceptional work and transparent communication. The colleagues who had distanced themselves gradually returned, though I remained selective about whom I allowed into my inner circle. 6 months ago, I began dating Stephanie, a children's book illustrator I met through a hiking group. She knows my full story and approaches our relationship with respect for my journey. When she first met my family, she observed the careful dynamics without judgment, later telling me she admired the intentional work evident in our interactions. As for Jessica, her digital fingerprints appeared in my life once more about a year after our confrontation. An email arrived, subject line, "I am sorry," containing a lengthy apology that centered her feelings and experiences more than my suffering. I read it once and never responded. My healing did not require her acknowledgement or absolution. Through mutual connections, I learned Jessica attempted similar manipulation with her next boyfriend, fabricating conflicts with his business partner. This time, her target recognized the deception immediately. Last I heard, she had moved to Chicago, presumably to rebuild her mythology, where her reputation did not precede her. The most valuable lesson from this ordeal was unexpected. I discovered that forgiveness and reconciliation are separate journeys. Forgiveness was something I gave myself, permission to stop carrying anger that only weighed me down. Reconciliation was the bridge built afterward, plank by careful plank, between myself and those who had hurt me. True family bonds can be tested by fire and emerge stronger if everyone commits to the rebuilding process. Trust once broken requires intentional reconstruction. Not blind faith, but earned confidence built through consistent actions over time. I found strength in vulnerability, sharing my experience with others who had suffered betrayal. By voicing my pain, I reclaimed the narrative Jessica had tried to write for me. Most importantly, I learned to value chosen family alongside biological connections. The friends who stood by me when evidence seemed damning demonstrated loyalty my blood relatives had temporarily abandoned. I now nurture these relationships with the same care once reserved exclusively for family. The trauma transformed me into someone with greater emotional intelligence and resilience. I listen more carefully, judge more slowly, and value authenticity above comfort. I move forward without living in fear of betrayal, not because I believe it cannot happen again, but because I know I can survive it if it does. The peace I have found comes from valuing truth over comfort, reality over illusion. Forgiveness was never about excusing what happened, but about freeing myself from its continued power over my life. If you have faced betrayal from those you trusted, most know that healing is possible. Your timeline belongs to you alone. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone who hurt you? Share your experience in the comments below. Hit the like button if the story resonated with you, and subscribe for more real-life journeys through challenges and recovery. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the family we rebuild is stronger than the one we were born into.